Have you ever heard the expression, it's too good to be true? I certainly have. Every investment these days, whether it's a new NFT drop or a new cryptocurrency, seems just way too good to be true. People are pitching these investments that have no risk, which is actually impossible, huge upside, but you have to get in right now. And so the question I have is there actually an investment that's too good to be true? An investment that you just can't miss? I think the answer is yes, and it's this upcoming Tuesday when ViacomCBS reports its fourth quarter earnings. So let's jump into the video. We're going to talk about why they've literally told us they're going to have a stellar earnings and how the stock market just hasn't reacted. So let's jump into the video. I'm not a certified financial advisor, and I'm sorry that the video quality is terrible, but if you get into ViacomCBS before Tuesday because of this video, I don't think the video quality is going to be a problem. That's all I'm saying. So let's jump into the video. Alright, so let's talk about ViacomCBS. They're a global powerhouse. Despite what their stock price says, they're actually one of the largest companies in the world. They have a ton of subsidiaries that are household names, such as MTV, Nickelodeon, BET, CBS, Paramount Pictures, and so their strategy has been threefold up until 2020. Their strategy was this. They had their networks that they had on cable. Then they also produced content that they licensed out to various streaming services. And then they had their CBS All Access, which is a on-demand library that you could pay for on a monthly basis. So it's basically their streaming service. And so in 2020, they realized they had to shift. Okay, there's no reason that Netflix is going to be paying Viacom to make content for them. Netflix is all about original content now. And there's no reason that Disney or these other major players are going to do the same. There's no reason to. They can just make their own. So Viacom realized to stay in the business, it had to actually make its own streaming service. So they rebranded CBS All Access and they called it Paramount Plus, and they added live sports, their entire library, as well as a ton of new stuff. This was their bet. They had to compete against all the major players if they wanted to survive. And so this is Paramount Plus. Now, Paramount Plus was released in about March of 2021. So let's see what happened in March of 2021. The stock price went from about $45 in January to about $97. It was there very briefly, and then something happened called the Archegos disaster, where a company that was very invested in CBS or Viacom actually went bankrupt. And they took out all this leverage to invest in Viacom and Discovery and all these other players, and they actually had to pay back these loans, and they couldn't do it. So they ended up liquidating all of their assets, and the stock price, you know what happens when the stock price starts to go down, people panic and sell, and then it goes down even more. So it went from an actually fair valuation of $100 to $39, $35, which is a little bit higher than it's actually at right now. Right now it's currently at 36. It's had a nice run. But so the point is this. It was at about 100. It was seeing some momentum. People were excited for Paramount Plus. And then a disaster completely out of their control happened. And it was just a major catalyst. That's what it was. Okay? The market doesn't necessarily always have a brain. The share price plummeted. And so let's see how Paramount Plus actually did. Paramount Plus has actually been doing incredible, okay? And we're going to talk about it. But that's the stock history. So Paramount Plus, it got to about 100, right? And then it tanks. But it was actually on quite a trajectory. And I'm going to talk about why Paramount Plus should actually be bringing this over the 100 and even more. All right, so let's call 2021 what it was. It was a transition year. It was the year CBS All Access became Paramount Plus, right? And nobody knew when the stock price was at 100 how the world would react to Paramount Plus, and in particular, how America would react. We didn't know. Would it be a success? Would it not be? So let's actually get the subscriber numbers, because let me tell you, when it comes to streaming services, one thing matters, and it is signups. It is accounts created. That's the only number that matters. Everything else comes with time. The only thing that matters is that subscriber number. Are people signing up? Okay? And are they staying? So, CBS All Access was around for 7 years. It went from about 2014 to 2021, like we talked about. At the end of their 7-year run, they had 30 million subscribers. Okay? They had about 30 million people that were signed up for CBS All Access. That averages around 4 million a year. Okay? That's not great. Paramount Plus, to put it into perspective, has already gained in the first 3 quarters 18 million subscribers. In the first 3 quarters, they've done what CBS All Access takes over 4 years to do on average. Okay, and that's in the first 3 quarters. They've seen huge momentum as they're actually taking market share away from these major companies like Netflix. The fourth quarter for Netflix, Netflix released terrific numbers, but guess what? They said they were losing market share to competitors. Well, guess what happened? Because Netflix fell, the competitors fell. Viacom didn't gain on that news that it was taking market share away from Netflix. It fell because the algorithm saw that a stock that was highly correlated to Viacom fell, so Viacom fell. The market doesn't make sense, especially when it comes to Viacom. So diving back into the numbers, we saw amazing subscriber growth in Paramount Plus. And it's just continuing to grow, okay? There was a 6 million subscriber gain in the second quarter. The third quarter saw a 4.7 million subscriber gain, and we already know the fourth quarter, they've given guidance, is over 5 million subscribers. To put into perspective, the first 2 quarters of 2021, Netflix gained 10 million subscribers. Okay, they gained 10 million subscribers. Viacom is beating that. They're on pace for probably well over 5 million subscribers in the fourth quarter alone. So it's crazy. It's going to put them literally like over 25 million subscribers gained this year. It's insane. And they have so much room to run. They have incredible room to run because guess what? Everyone has Netflix, and everyone who cut the cord for streaming services has a lot more money to spend because these streaming services are cheap. Paramount Plus has plans starting at like $5. It's incredible. So there's a lot of room for them to grow, especially in the US, and they're also trying to grow overseas as well. So, Netflix just isn't in a place where they're going to continue their growth. And so it doesn't make sense to me why Netflix has a PE so much higher than Viacom. Because Netflix and Viacom have similar revenue. Earnings, Netflix is about double Viacom's earnings. But the PE, Viacom should have a higher PE. They have more room to grow than Netflix does, quite frankly. And so let's talk about the PE for a minute, because guess what? The PE for Viacom right now is at 7, which is actually higher than it's been this past month. It's been lower than 7. They're a growth company, people. They are just starting out, and they are crushing it lately. So they have a 7 PE, which means they're valued super cheaply. They're valued like they're going out of business because people think that cord cutting is much more popular than it actually is. And it's already happened to the people it's going to happen to. And cord cutting is really on a downtrend. But anyways, Viacom is positioned to grow from cord cutting because they are set up with Paramount Plus. So Viacom has a 7 PE. So that means that essentially their profits are really good. So people are saying that their profits are going to decline. Well, 2021 was a transition year for Paramount Plus, which means 2022 is the big year. That's the year they're going all out. If you look at the content they made in 2021, it was nothing compared to what they're making in 2022. They're making major movies essentially like every week. They have a ton of new series coming out that I'm super excited for. They just released the trailer for Halo, which looks like a new Star Wars movie. Like, it's incredible, this TV show that's coming out. And so they are spending more money than they've ever spent on content because, their founder, Sumner Redstone, the father of the current owner, Sherry Redstone, was the guy who coined the expression content is king. So they are really kicking it into high gear to be able to compete with and dominate all these major players like Netflix and Disney and HBO Max. So, well, guess what? People don't really understand this, but it's very simple. When you produce a TV show or a major movie, it's a cost, but it's a cost in the year before because guess what? You have to film it and then you have to edit it and do post-production, which takes several, maybe 3 to 6 months. So the content, a lot of the content for 2022 is already made. What does that mean? It means it was a cost in 2021, which means their 7 PE, a lot of the costs for the 7 PE was capital expenditures, essentially, that's going to pay off huge dividends in terms of subscriber growth and profit in the following year. So their 7 PE is actually the major costs associated with this upcoming 2022's stellar lineup for Paramount Plus. So when people make the argument that their profit margins are going to decline because they're not going to be able to compete with the major players. I argue that they already have the profit margins of competing with the major players, and they're dominating. And it's only going to go up in 2022. The subscriber counts are going to go up exponentially, and that's why I am so excited for CBS to just come out with Paramount Plus in 2022 and all these major programs that they are going to release. So we have quite the stock. I mean, if the PE is at 7 and my hypothesis is true of profit margins only growing, continuing going forward, well, guess what's going to happen? I mean, we're going to see a quadruple to even more than that, like 4 to 8x what the company is currently worth in the next like 1 to 2 years. So I suggest getting in. BlackRock recently got in. They got in sometime in the fourth quarter. Let me think. Who else got in? Vanguard also got in the fourth quarter, and they upped their positions actually significantly. Jim Cramer's been pushing it, and a broken clock is at least right twice a day, right? So he's going to be talking about Viacom for a very long time. I think this is going to be one of his biggest winners. And Sherry Redstone recently got in for more money, and Bob Bakish, the CEO, got in for more money, around $36, around what it's trading at now. So yeah, I think the floor is very little here because really the only thing that matters is a subscriber count, and we already know that's through the roof. The market hasn't reacted because people just have this outdated perception of CBS, and there's all these more interesting investments going on. But guess what? With the purchasing power that people actually have and all the money that the government has stimulated into the economy, people have so much money to spend. And with the NFL season having ended and the best NFL season in the history of 10% higher than the previous year, which was the best year for the NFL, CBS is just funneling millions and millions of people into their Paramount Plus, where they're going to be able to keep them and then grow because they have so much room to run. They really do, and to grow. And so I think 2022 is going to be a massive year for CBS, and I think I just concluded my first YouTube video. Thank you so much, and enjoy Tuesday. I hope you get in.